Hello dear viewers and welcome back to the ancient dwarven hold of our ancestors. Today I shall be talking about the game Chronicon. Chronicon is a two-dimensional action role-playing game developed and published by Subworld. It was released on the 21st of August 2020. In Chronicon, you take on the role of an adventurer who relives the memories of famous heroes on their quest to take down ancient evil. You will hack and slash through baddies and employ special skills and abilities to take down those enemies. There is loot aplenty and multiple ways to build a character. Chronicon is a game I have overheard talk of at the Tavern of the Ancient Hold many a time. It uses pixel graphics to describe the world here, with sprites for both your player character and all the baddies that you'll have to deal with. Most ARPGs that I play tend to be 3D affairs, with varying fidelity, so it's nice to play a two-dimensional one for a change. The colour scheme used here is mostly of bright colours and hues, but with a good use of shadow and darkness where needed. It is indeed colourful, but it has a dark edge to it. The worlds are fairly simple in their artistic design, depicting an assortment of different locations for you to adventure through. The aforementioned use of light and shadow really adds a lot to describing the background of each place as you make your way through them. Though you might say that because the game is 2D, because it's pixel art, that skill and abilities and indeed the background scenes won't look as good as a three-dimensional one. To that I would say that using two-dimensional graphics can create quite a dazzling show. I guess the overall flashiness might not be as much as 3D, but 2D graphics have their own way of creating artistically interesting and importantly prominent and clear imagery. The character I played, the Berserker, made use of flashy lightning spells, and when casting them in the fray, it was easy to see where they were. I could see what I was pulling off in game, and most of the time it looks rather cool in its own two-dimensional way. It can get quite crazy in the later game though, when you have lots of skills maxed with some crazy items going, and I guess that is to be expected to a degree, but there can be a lot going on by this point. I could keep my eyes on where my character was though. The visual feedback from using abilities feels good, and that is what we're looking for. I enjoy this graphical style and approach, but I know some might not, and that's okay. Sadly, equipment that you pick up on your journey makes no difference on how your character looks. You look how you look, and no matter how powerful your weapons are or your armour is, you'll always look the same, which is a shame. I think perhaps they could have done something here, but I guess it would be pretty involved. Perhaps just a simple upgrade at different tiers of power might have been cool. You can change the colour of a few items you're wearing though, but that's about it. While playing Chronicon, I didn't encounter any hard crashes and didn't see much in the way of slowdown from too many things going on the screen at once, which can be an issue with these sorts of games. Load times were thankfully down to a minimum as well. The game's sounds of getting stuck into combat and smashing stuff to the ground are impactful and provide good feedback for your actions. The music is good quality too and fits the fantasy style that they were going for here. There is some dialogue between your character and others you encounter on your adventures, or back at the base, but it is mostly in text form. Some characters did have a few lines voiced, but the majority of it is plain text, which is fine. This is a smaller scale indie title, so I wouldn't expect everything to be voiced. It is pretty standard. The main premise of the game is that you are a brave adventurer that has been chosen to enter the Chronicon and relive the deeds of heroes past. It seems that all the baddies in the world have been defeated. There is no one left to take down. So to honour the brave adventurers past, you use the Chronicon to go back to witness and participate in the great achievements of these mighty heroes. There are several heroes to pick from when you start a new game. The Berserker, the Warlock, the Templar, the Warden, and the Mechanist if you have the expansion. Each has a different way of fighting, employing different weapons and equipment to take battle to the enemy. Once you've selected, you get a brief introduction to the Chronicon before going off into the first memory that counts as an act in the game. I have to say, I wish there was a little more introduction to proceedings, as I felt a little plonked into the game and straight off into a mission, rather than briefed more closely on what was going on. Perhaps I missed something or clicked too fast past something, perhaps. Before we get into it proper, I think it's worth talking about the UI. As you go higher in screen resolution, the UI elements tend to get smaller and smaller. Sometimes it's nice to have a minimal user interface, but accessibility wise, this can be a bit of a pain if you have any visual issues. Luckily, the developers have thought of this and added numerous sliders in the option menu where you can increase and decrease the size of various elements of the UI. This is great stuff. There is a lot going on between the different classes, with the Warlock being ranged based with dark powers, the Warden being a bow wielding ranged attack class, the Berserker being a melee nutcase and so on, but just within a class itself there are numerous ways to play them. With my Berserker character, they had access to several skill trees representing different aspects, like employing fire, frost or lightning, and physical attacks, with varying different moves and abilities, not only between them, but within each tree themselves. There is a lot of flexibility going on here with skill trees, which I really like. You gain a skill point each time you level up, which allows you to place it in a tree of your choice. The skill trees remind me a lot of Grim Dawn and Titan Quest, where you start on the left hand side and the more points you put into it, the more the skills unlock across the tree to the right. There are sections where you pick from skills to use, with the more points you invest in them, making them stronger. Skills usually have branching upgrades as well, that you can put points into, like having a % chance to proc some kind of effect or ability. I really enjoy this sort of character building, as you can get stuck right in and create the sort of character that you want to. You aren't forced to create your hero in a certain way. There are some restrictions of course, especially if you want to get more powerful skills, but it feels like a very free experience, which is brilliant. Besides gaining skill points each time you level, you also have Mastery, which is a separate bar on your UI that gains levels as you play through the game, awarding a Mastery point each time you ding. These Mastery points can then be invested into passive bonuses such as plus damage or plus HP and so on. It isn't as deep as the devotion system with Grim Dawn, but it does the trick of adding more options when building your character. To control your character, the mouse and keyboard is the default scheme, but you can make use of a controller too. I used a mouse and keyboard and mapped a few different skills to my MMO mouse with lots of buttons on the side as I like to play. By default, you use WASD to move your character rather than mouse movements. This can allow for more control over your character, which click to move can sometimes have challenges with. The general gameplay in Chronicon revolves around you fighting your way through an area, usually on a quest you picked up, picking up any goodies dropped and then returning back to the base to sell stuff and modify skills and equipment. A pretty standard kind of ARPG game loop, but a satisfying one nonetheless. There are different difficulties you can switch to right from the start. I began on normal and then turned it up to heroic, and by the end of my playthrough it was on the hardest available. And this isn't some boast of how good I am, because I'm certainly not, but for whatever reason I seem to be able to slug through the levels at a solid speed. Maybe it was my build, but I never really felt threatened, besides a couple of occasions. It was fun smashing through everything though, I must say. The combat of Chronicon is probably the main thing that people are interested in, and I'm happy to say, dear viewers, that this old dwarf enjoys it very much. My Berserker character uses their knuckles to deal out punishment, tied in with quick movement. I've made use of the lightning skill tree, employing fists of cackling bolts to dish out damage to the baddies. Pretty much from the get-go, the impact of the abilities felt really good. I had a little switch between a few different abilities, but I landed on some that I really enjoyed, and the good dwarven times rolled on from then on. It was a great joy to smash the ground with lightning blasts, and with a massive lightning punch that caused lightning to go all over the place. This tied in with a dashing lightning attack was fun plenty. I'm very pleased to say, and as you can see, that the moment-to-moment combat gameplay is really good fun, and that is what we're looking for, right? When we play a video game, we are hopefully looking for a good time, or at least a good experience, and Chronicon certainly provides that here. I can understand now why there is so much chatter going on in the local tavern in regard to this game. There is quite a wide array of enemy types, from ghosts and skeletons to elf druids, treants, weird beholder type monsters, demons, giant worms and more. The bosses are also interesting, and there are several to fight in each act. If I must say something to the detriment of the combat, is that earlier on at least, sometimes you can get animation locked, where your character performs some ability, but you wish to move immediately, being unable to until the animation is complete. If you could cancel out quickly out of an ability, I think it would really add to the already enticing combat. Is that a drawback of 2D? I'm not sure. Also, sometimes, as noted earlier, when you are further on in the game, there can be a lot going on the screen that can feel a little crazy, with colours and effects all over the place. It is fairly simple to keep your eye on your character, but yes, sometimes it can go all over a bit mad, as they say. One aspect of combat which I really enjoyed is the streak system. After you kill a 10th enemy in quick succession, a small bar on the UI will start draining down. Each time you attack or be attacked by an enemy, the bar refills. The intention is that you chain together more and more enemies so that the streak number goes higher and higher. And if you go for a few seconds without fighting anything, the bar will empty and the streak will stop, awarding you experience and currency depending on how high you manage to go. I think mine was around 700 or so. This is really good fun, dear viewers, and it is quite a rush to try and get to the next pack before the timer runs out, you hurtling through the level, seeking out more to destroy. As you can probably imagine, with this being an ARPG, there are all sorts of stats and gear options in Chronicon. All the usual stuff is here, like plus damage, crit chance, crit damage, resistances, and all sorts. If you're looking for a deep delve in with all the numbers, then I think this will serve you well. You can really crank up the stats you're interested in, like making a crit monster, or an attack speed madman if you like, or why not both? And what of the gear, dear dwarf, I hear you say? Well, the gearing options are aplenty here as well. Before I go on further about it, I think it's important to mention that having good gearing is what you want, but if you don't actually see any of that cool loot dropping, then it won't matter much. Luckily, there is a lot of loot dropping in Chronicon, and it is good and useful, right from the start of the game and as you progress through it. Indeed, there is so much that sometimes I didn't know what to do with it all, as I'm a bit of a hoarder and think to hold on to things as I might need them later on, or it might be good for another character. And the gear isn't all just simple plus some stats or resistance or something. There is that, of course, but there are also cool items like summoning a ball of lightning that orbits you, or the summoning of a little goblin that attacks things on your behalf. There are plus damage to certain skills, as well as items that proc effects of other certain skills, and so forth. As you would hope, there are several systems, like gem socketing and enchanting, and transmutation. These allow you to modify your gear further. Some items have sockets, which you can fill with gems you pick up in the world. I must admit though, it took me a while to actually realise there is an entire separate inventory for gems. I thought I just didn't have any early game, so I wasn't interacting with the gem system straight away. The enchanting system is fairly simple yet meaningful. You can increase separate stats on an item, which at the same time locks them so they can't be changed again. You can then try to re-roll stats you haven't locked into something else that you might like. This uses essences, which are something else you passively pick up while playing. This feels a lot more fluid and less stressful than other systems I've played in different games over the years. Once you've completed the 5 story acts, you can go on to the Endgame, where you can run anomalies, which are essentially randomised maps. You can crank up the difficulty even higher here, so it can give you a good challenge and something to work on should you wish to keep playing on a character after the campaign. The max level is 100, but mastery seems to be limitless, so there is more you can do with your character should you wish. Chronicon is very much an in-depth ARPG that would sate the lust of avid players of this genre. There is a lot of depth in regards to building out a character. The different classes have a lot of options within their own talent trees, in that you can make 2 warriors, one using fiery fists and another warrior that uses lightning bolts. It's pretty great, I have to say. I think it possible that someone might look at the graphical style of Chronicon and perhaps dismiss it in terms of deep and rewarding experiences. I would say no, sir. There really is an awful lot to get stuck into here, and coming from someone who enjoys Grim Dawn an awful lot, there are similarities going on here with the skill systems, which takes my fancy. The only real big issue I have with Chronicon is the story. There is no overarching narrative like you might find in other ARPGs. It's pretty much, here are some different old adventures you can experience, with each one being one full act. So go brave adventurer. There is a simple story behind each adventure, but there isn't anything gripping that will take hold of you and make you think. It was quite a joy to play this game. I really liked zipping about the place and smashing to bits baddies with my fists of lightning. The power fantasy is very much alive here in this game, which is important and compels you to play on as you violently take issue with the baddies' faces. If you're an enjoyer of action role-playing games, then I definitely think you should check this out. There is much to get your teeth into here with building your character, and it is forgiving as you can respec certain points if you like, or reallocate all your skills and masteries. There is an openness to building a mighty hero which is brilliant, rather than penalising you for making mistakes with your build early on. I can understand some people might not be into the 2D graphics or even see it as a limitation, but I really think if you give it a go, you'll really enjoy it. It is on sale fairly often, and even at full price on GOG, it is about 20 quid, so you can't go wrong. It is available on Steam as well. And there we go, dear viewers, another video from me here down in the Ancient Hold. If you like what I do here under the mountain and haven't yet done so, then please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a thumbs up. Also, if you fancy, maybe leave a comment with your own thoughts on the game. It all helps the channel greatly. Thank you, I hope you are well, and I shall see you next time.